Welcome back, I'm Jana with Purl Together, and in this week's video we're going to join up the body of the Maja cardigan with the sleeves. It's a little fiddly and a little bit tedious, but once you've got everything joined up together in the round, you'll be on your way just knitting in the round, working on your color motif for the yoke, and that's going to be exciting to see that take shape. Before we get started, I want to give a shout out and a big thank you to several new patrons that have joined since our last video. A big thanks to Kelly, Mrs. Larry, Judith, Glenn, and Denise. Thanks so much for joining the Purl Together Patreon family. Your support is what keeps these videos coming to you each and every week. If you're interested in learning how to become a patron, head on over to patreon.com/Purl Together, and you can see what I'm offering as benefits for monthly pledges. All right, let's get started. Okay, let's just take a moment to appreciate the loveliness and occasional cat hair of the Maja cardigan. So this one I've knitted a little bit longer than the pattern called for, just because of my daughter's preference. That's what she wanted. Her torso's kind of long, and so that's what we did. So the idea here is we're going to take our sleeves. I have most of it on this blue waste yarn here, and then I have the 10 stitches for the size I'm knitting on the inside. So here's the beginning of the round, and that's where you might have a little pattern offset. So that's going to be the inside of the arm. So I'm going to attach that here, and then the other one the same way on this side. So what I've done now is knitted the prescribed number of stitches across from the beginning of my round. So for me, knitting this medium size, that was 39. And now we're going to combine things. Now, I will tell you, this is all very fiddly, and it's going to take some patience. So, get yourself a glass of wine or whatever you prefer. And yeah, it's going to be a little fiddly, but here's how I prefer to do this. Okay. So what I do is I pull up the waste yarn. Now I realize I probably shouldn't use such a dark yarn to show you. I wasn't really thinking, but I pull this up and I use my fingers in combination with my waste yarn as if it's my left hand knitting needle. And I just go ahead and knit right into that and use this waste yarn kind of to pull this up and over my needle. And then when I'm done with the stitch, I take it out. And I know that that's tedious and it's going to take a little while, but that's okay. Just plan for the time to do it. Okay, so again, I just pull that stitch up, go into it as if to knit, and just knit it right off, and then pull the waste yarn out. So that's how I'm knitting it onto my working needle here. Alternatively, if you wanted to, you could take 10 or 20 stitches, put a double point on there, and just knit it off. And that might be faster and easier for you. To do it in sections with, like I said, 10 or 20 stitches on a double point and then just knit them off. That's your preference. So try it either way and see what you think works best. If you don't like this idea or the DPNs, the other thing you can do is go ahead and turn everything over and put all of your sleeve stitches on your left hand knitting needle and then go ahead and knit after that. So you could choose to do it that way. Just make sure you try not to twist any stitches. Make sure they're mounted properly, and just go ahead and put them all on your left hand needle, and then you're just knitting, which might be quicker. So you'll just have to fuss around a bit and see what you think works best for you. All right, I've knitted all the way across the back stitches, and I'm ready to join in the other sleeve. I want to double count from the waste yarn where you joined up in the back. Double count your back stitches to make sure that they're right and your sleeve placement will be correct. The other thing you can do is count from the beginning. You should have the same number of stitches across the front here that you did on the other side. And then put your 10 stitches here for your sleeve on the waste yarn, just like we did before. There's 10 on waste yarn there. Good. Okay. The other thing that's really helpful here is if you have those rubber stopper things, you can put that on there if you're concerned about your stitches on the front falling off while you're attaching your other sleeve. So what we're going to do, again, the white stitches will match up. This will be grafted, and we're just going to transfer all of these stitches and knit them on. So I'm going to turn this over to make that easier. And if you want to do it the other way, you can put, put this left yarn, thread them all on here. However you want to do it, of the 3 or 4 ways that I showed you a little while ago. So just attach everything else, and then we'll knit across to the beginning of our round. All right, just a couple more things I want to point out. This week, you'll be asked to knit a plain round after you get everything joined together. So that's good because it evens everything out. And you'll notice you may have some gapping going on here. And I'll show you what I'm going to do to mitigate that when I get over to the sleeve. And you'll also take this opportunity, if you would, to go ahead and double count as you're knitting your plain round, double count your stitches and make sure everything matches up with the prescribed stitch count for your size. Okay, when you get around to the sleeve here where we've joined this up, there's a couple of things you can do. What I'm going to do here, where this join is, I'm just going to go ahead and make sure to pull this really snug, and I'm going to pull the next one out a little bit to take up any slack, and I'm going to even that out through the next several stitches, making sure to pull this pretty snug as well. And that will help tighten all this up right here where this join is. When we graft this together, if you have a tiny hole right here, we'll sew that, and I'll show you what I'm going to do there. So don't worry about any of that for right now. We're just going to go ahead and knit around, evening everything out like I just showed you where the sleeves attach. And then you'll want to move on to this section that says next round. And you're either going to knit all the stitches or you're going to do some decreasing depending on what size you're knitting. Then again, on the yoke section, we'll start that. You're going to knit at least 1 round and possibly more depending on your size again. And then you're going to start doing the chart. Let me show you a couple things about that. Okay, I want you to notice again, same as before on the body chart, this has a repeat of stitches 2 through 17. You're repeating these 16 stitches. Again, you're only going to knit the stitch number 1, you're only knitting that 1 time, and then your repeat is stitches 2 through 17. So we had that same situation when we were over here on the body part, and that messed a couple of people up. So just be sure it's the same situation. So just be mindful of that. The sleeves were the only time that you did all of the stitches on this chart. So again, you're going to knit stitch number 1 the first time and then repeat stitches 2 through 17 all the way around the yoke. And the decreases are placed in the plain round section, where you're just knitting that same color all the way around. So that's easy. Keep in mind that once you decrease, these blank spots become no stitch. So it's just, you're just skipping right over that because you've decreased that stitch away. So, if you have this printed out, put a post-it note on that first stitch, or just draw an outline with your knit companion, or do whatever you need to do to remember that you only knit that first stitch of the round once, and then do your repeats are 2 through 17. Okay. I just wanted to make sure of that because inevitably there's questions from people about why their counts don't come out correctly on the chart, and that's likely why. Okay, so knit through the motif, and next time we'll talk about the short rows. I hope you find these videos helpful. Click that thumbs up button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Next time we'll be working on completing the short rows at the back and then also the neckband. Join me for that, and I'll see you next time. Thanks so much for watching.